found out I was traded once I landed in Portland. Well, I found out I was traded to Portland that morning to shoot around. Then I found out once I landed in Portland. And now, here we are. But I'm excited to be here, and I'm grateful for it.
Did Portland give you any indication that they might flip you?
I would say from when I found out I was traded, I heard from 2 people in the organization. But there's like this saying that I was told, like, if you don't hear from the front office within like a certain amount of time, chances are you could be moved again. Talked to my agents. They said it was possible as well. And so I was just hanging tight, just waiting to see whatever happens.
First impression of being here, going through shoot around with the guys?
I was watching film because I try to catch up on some of the plays, but the language, I think, just usually around the league, there's terms that are referenced around the same thing. Here it's Chinese, so it's new, but I'm learning it, and the guys have been cool. It's been fun, and they're willing to help.
Is it a little different, maybe like joining a team that is very veteran heavy now? You know?
Yeah, I think the approach, just from film to shoot around to workouts from yesterday as well, attention to detail, the points of emphasis. But it's good. I think this will be a great opportunity for me to learn, pick up on vet habits, and a winning culture.
Do you feel like you were able to show like your complete self as a player in New Orleans?
I felt like I had flashes of it. There's definitely moments where I was able to be who I truly was, and I feel like through those games, a lot of people who have watched have seen that. But a lot of it, I don't point fingers to say they held me back or anything. I just can only imagine what I'm going to bring to this team, and I'm excited because a lot of it goes well with who I am.
And what is that?
I would say, first and foremost, just a basketball player. Someone who can make plays off the reads, off catches, pick and roll actions, which is a lot of what goes on here. Can shoot the ball, but like I said before, I'm really at my best getting in the paint and then making plays from there. And also, as a perimeter defender, that's where my main focus is right now, just coming to the team. Guys have solidified themselves, so I'm just going to find my niche on the defensive end.
Everything I read about your scouting back from high school to college said you were ambidextrous. Are you truly ambidextrous?
Yeah, I would say I am.
What do you do? Like, do you right-handed and play something else left-handed, or what's
Right-handed, can golf both. Not good at golf, but I can. Bat left, hockey left stick.
Only said by Canadian.
Of course. And for the most part, yeah, that's baseball. I never really played, but if I was, probably right.
Have you talked to Quinn, and what did he tell you?
I have talked to him. Just kind of excited about who I am as a player and what I can add to the team, but also just coming in and really helping defend, being a good perimeter defender, giving that good spark off the bench defensively, and allowing the offensive end to come. The team's full of great guards and all-stars, and so it's just like my role is not to be that spark plug of scoring, just to come in offensively and to make the right play, but defensively.
Did Quinn tell you where he anticipated you fitting into the rotation?
No, I haven't talked about that yet. As far as everything's going on, I'm just trying to catch the wave, and just truly understand the system. I'm in no rush to move faster than what God has given me.
What are some of your interests outside of basketball that you want Jazz fans to know?
I'm excited about this cooking class that we got going on Saturday. Taylor told me about. I like food. That's my thing. Restaurants, all types of food. I'm from Toronto, so like I'm used to all different types of cuisine. I would say my palate is very extensive, so definitely food, shopping, vintage clothes, all that stuff.
A little sad to leave New Orleans cuisine, I guess. I take it.
I mean, yeah, it does hurt a little bit.
No beignets.
No beignets, but king cake. But you know, you gotta sacrifice something.
Do you have any kind of previous relationship with any of the guys on this team? Do you know any of them at all before coming here?
I met Jared this summer. Me and Eric in the same drag class, kind of been cool. That's about it. A lot of mutual friends, I think, with a lot of them, but no like real personal relationships just yet.
What advice have you gotten? Obviously, this is your first time changing teams. Have you gotten any advice on like what this process is like and how to deal with it?
A little bit. Thank God for the people in my circle who have helped me understand how to handle it. Just take it one day at a time. Do the best I can to learn. I think it's just about learning. It's a new experience, so just being comfortable with the change and accepting the change is going to be big.
I was reading back about your journey. Can you take us through a little bit, leaving Canada and then coming to the U.S. and what that experience was, and then what did you do during summers? Did you do AAU, or what did you do in those periods?
I left when I was 16, then my sophomore year, St. Louis, junior and senior year, Chattanooga, Tennessee. During the summers, I did play AAU back home, but we were on the Under Armour circuit, so we did travel to America, did LA, New Orleans, I think Charlotte, a bunch of different places, Atlanta. But I was always kind of used to just this competition, playing against a bunch of guys in high school, guys in my class now. Kind of just always played against them. It was good having Shea there my junior, senior year. Being so far away from home at a young age, you kind of learn a lot just about responsibilities, taking care of yourself, managing the money that your parents do give you, and kind of being an adult really early.
From a basketball standpoint, we played in the preseason, and all your New Orleans people were talking about you. Did you feel like a huge pressure this year to kind of take that Lonzo gone and some of the moves they had made that you were trying to assert yourself in some way?
I feel like the only pressure I've ever felt in my life was from myself. I work hard and I set myself to a high standard, and so I try to reach that standard each and every game. Might have been a little too hard on myself to say, finding that grace now. But as far as the people in New Orleans, they've stood by me. It comes with the game. You're going to have some people who criticize you, but then there's more love than hate, and that's all I can really say. And no hard feelings to the fans or to the city at all.
When you were with the Pelicans, when you were playing the Jazz, like kind of what were the things you looked for? Like what were the key elements of the scout? And I guess like along those lines, what are those elements of the team now that you're excited to get to like be a part of?
Extremely hard to guard. Got to lock in defensively. As far as scout goes, be ready to rotate because the ball moves well. They penetrate. I believe the term's called just multi-actions. Just always getting in the paint, kicking out, lob threats, and then the crowd. You get to Utah and that. First of all, the altitude, it hits you. And the crowd, even I was expecting no one to really be there for preseason games because it's what I'm used to. And that looked like Game 5 of the playoffs, so that's pretty cool.
Your numbers were...
Last one here, sorry, Dave.
Your numbers were pretty different if you were on the floor with Brandon than if you weren't on the floor with Brandon. I don't know if that was just coincidental or not. You seemed to be much more efficient when you were on the floor with Brandon or even, I think, with Zion the year before. Can you speak to how those roles were different for you on the team depending on who was on the floor with you in the world?
Didn't know that. It was pretty good. Doing your research. But I guess it's just, when guys focus so much on BI and what he's able to do, and Zion what they're able to do. It's just make the game easier for me, simplified it, and it's a good stat to know. I think kind of just shows where I need to improve, and I'm going to take that, and not having them here, but still having guys like Donovan and Mike, JC, who draws a lot of attraction as well. I think it'll be just the same, kind of taking the pressure off of me and just making the right play.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
What were your thoughts on the trade, and what are your initial thoughts on the Jazz?
I mean, I was really happy to go to a winner team. I think can get a chance to win the championship and be a part of it. So I was really excited, and now we gotta keep it rolling.
What's it been like just trade after trade? It seems like you've been a part of. How do you kind of deal with that?
I mean, probably the first trade I ever have was the tough one, because I was like 4 years in Denver. I feel like part of my family, and the first one is always emotional. But after the first one, I mean, you already know what is business, how the NBA treat the players, and you gotta be mentally tough, be ready for everything. In a couple minutes, your life can change, and that's how it is. That's how life it is, and you gotta be ready for everything, in a good ways and in a bad ways, and just try to be as consistency as you can be, mentally, and your body and your family and your friends, and just keep it going. Just keep through. That's how it is.
For people who aren't familiar with your game, what do you bring on the court?
I bring energy, give it up every single game, rebound, open the core, and try to do my best to help the team to get the consistency to win, a high level.
What are your thoughts on Utah, the Jazz as an organization? I mean, I know Ricky Rubio well, and obviously he spent time here. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, Ricky was in love with the city and with the team. He probably played his best here. Then we play in national team, and he bring it all. Yeah, he was happy with the team, with the coach, with everybody. That's the way it ends. It happens, but that's how I told you before. That's how NBA goes. And yeah, he was happy for me. He texted me right away, and yeah, I'm not really familiar with the city. We just have great games against Denver, and great series and great everything. And I didn't spend that much time here, so I'm kind of excited.
Just from your time with the Nuggets, and maybe from your time with national team play, how familiar are you with any of the guys on this team before you came here?
I mean, I know Bogdanovic because he played in Spain a little bit when he was young. Then he played a high level in Europe, and he speaks Spanish. And every time we play against each other, like when he was in Indiana and all the stuff, we were talking. And I know Rudy, but more than playing against him, French against Spain and all the stuff. And now we're on the same team. So I told him yesterday, I hate to play against you, but now we gotta play together. So that's the fun part.
When you got traded to Minnesota, you started a bunch of games, signed the contract. I think if that's the right timing, and felt like things were. In your mind, what's kind of happened since then to your career and the opportunities?
I mean, I got a tough summer. Dealing with the injuries, or like the let me or don't let me play the Olympics, kind of was really, really tough. It was a really change emotionally. Like one day you can go, next day they don't let you go. One day the doctor say you're fine with it, the next day you are not. So, and then all the trades happen, and then I went to Boston, and I was part of I start the first preseason game, so I think it's gonna be good for me. But then at the end, I stopped playing, and no reason why, and just keep going, and that's how it is. It's about opportunities, about being the right time in the right spot, and it's about timing, as you said. So you gotta keep going. I mean, everybody got their own path, and you gotta figure it out. So keep going, keep trust on your working. Keep trusting on yourself, and figure out how to get out of the bad days.
What is one interest or hobby outside of basketball that you want Jazz fans to know about you?
I mean, I'm a normal kid. I like to be with my friends, play video games. I start playing more golf, but on the summertime. That's it. I mean, yeah, probably that.
Do you play Warzone? What's your favorite video?
Yeah, Warzone. I play with my brother, and that's the way we connect, like almost every day, with the friends from Spain. So it's like it's really good for us to get the mind and be with the friends.
Okay, this team is filled with a bunch of video gamers, so.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
All right, good. Yeah, let's get started. Who'd like to go?
Why do you like Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
I thought when there was an opportunity to acquire him, we've always, here with the Jazz, and just when you see opportunities to acquire a young player who, has had some minutes and some developmental time and some rotational minutes in the NBA, that has skills and tools, and we've always wanted to bet on our coaching staff, our culture here, our development staff, to take, some of the really good things that I think Nickeil shows and make it even better. All of the intel and even the brief chances that I've had a chance to spend time with him here. We did a lot of work on him in the draft as well. Great kid, hard worker. Like I said before, has tools. So having him come in here, get settled, we play in a different way than he's been raised in the NBA. I think he'll acclimate pretty quickly, and then it'll add another option for Q. And then the other part that we like is that contractually he's still on his rookie scale deal, so he's got a developmental pathway, not only this season but going into next, for him to really integrate here.
What was the impact on the ability to get somebody that's on his rookie scale deal that was the number 17 pick? Just going forward for this roster, because this roster isn't one of the youngest ever.
It's not.
Nah.
No. I would say certainly that that's something that we look at as far as adding some youth, but not completely new to the NBA. I would say, Tony, that we would look at those opportunities, whatever our time, whatever our timeline in terms of our competitiveness of our team, whether we're a young rebuilding team or we're a playoff competitive team or we're a trying to be a championship contending team. I think anytime those opportunities come up that we try to do that, because it's never just, and I've said it before, you guys have heard it plenty of times, it's not just what are we doing for the next 4 months, what are we doing for the next year. These are all on, Nickeil has a chance to be here on a multi-year timeline, and you always have to have a chance to add some of those guys. Even some of our previous players who aren't here now, but they start in a role where maybe not playing a sixth wing, a guy coming over from Europe, and then 3 or 4 years later they're starters or huge contributors, and that happens over a period of 3 or 4 years as these guys develop with our staff. So this is the start here for Nickeil, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Just in terms of adding a guy who's maybe a little bit more of a long-term prospect than necessarily an immediate impact guy, how did kind of the market develop in terms of, looking at guys who fit the former category, and I guess what was kind of the price tag for that?
Sure. So, I don't want to get into any individual stuff, like all the things that could have happened or didn't happen or did happen. Like, you're dealing with 29 other teams and they have their own stuff. And what's unique about the trade deadline as opposed to the moratorium period or draft stuff is that there's just a hard deadline. So if you don't have something finished and done and called into the league by one mountain, like whatever could have happened or not, there's always sorts of stories that float around in the coming days. But Eric, your question, it gives me an opportunity to just really kind of talk about our process. I was really excited, and it was a lot of fun with Danny, with our group, how connected we are. The process that we were all in the room together as these things, not only just in one day. This isn't something where we just show up and it's trade deadline day. So this is the process that's been evolving over the last couple months of us all being together. Danny's experience and just the great experience gives us a different perspective from his years in Boston, and some of our guys that have been here with me for quite a long time in elevated roles, and also some of our new guys and girls that have come in to be part of this. It was just a really collaborative process where I feel really confident in the amount of information on what we knew about the market and what was going on, and every opportunity that came our way that we were able to look at and understand and make really good decisions. From where we stand as a team, we're a very competitive team. When we're healthy, when we're connected, we have a chance to contend for a title. And so in this market, and I think it's bared out in everything else that happened, where we have a core group of guys that a lot of other teams obviously have interest in, but our job as a front office is to evaluate, is there anything that can make us better as opposed to just change for change that makes us worse? Because when we're connected and healthy, as I said, we're very, very good. And I'm excited about this group. We want to make a bet on this group that all of the things that we've gone through this year with injuries and COVID, we still have proof of concept in this group. I think some of the adversity that we've gone through with COVID and injuries have allowed some of our younger players to take advantage of their opportunities, and that's what happens during a season. It's not a static thing, so guys are continuing to prepare and develop with our coaching staff, and then they get an opportunity to play. And by playing consecutively or continually, even if it's just a 3 or 4 game stretch, but they get experience that gives them confidence, gives their teammates confidence in them, and really can bind a team together, even if some of the guys that have been playing a ton of minutes when we've been hurt or out with COVID may or may not be in a playoff rotation. But it gives us the ability to continue to manage the regular season with more depth. And then obviously whatever those possibilities going forward with next year, the year after, as these young players continue to develop, them really taking advantage of those opportunities. I'm really proud of that young group, and obviously proud of our coaching staff for putting in the work and those guys being ready.
Justin, when you get a player like this who's fairly new in the league and find out, do you go back to your scouting of college? What weighs the most when you're evaluating a younger player still on their first contract that you're bringing in?
We like Nickeil in the draft, as I said before. His length, his character, his work ethic, all of that stuff, I think, has continued to bear out when he was starting in the league. I think any player that comes into our system and our group here, our group has a track record of trying to optimize those guys, and we think that he's got the tools to do that. I don't know, it's up to coach in terms of what role he plays this year or next year. I think there's going to be a settling period where, a highly competitive team, he's coming into a situation where he's not on a rebuilding or a retooled team. But I think he's got the capacity to adapt, to improve, and I think maybe, the opportunity to be in different roles than what you've just seen on TV in the last couple of years with another team is we take a look at those tools, his work ethic, and see where he can best fit for himself and for us. And I think, we've done that with other players that have come from other teams and come in here and really trying to optimize what works for them and also what works for us.
Say, maybe you're touching on with the tools, but do you look at, by definition, to some extent, if you're getting a player on their first contract, it hasn't gone perfectly where they were, do you look for some analytics that say, oh, this is a sign that there's something there, that, the 37% shooting is not true because of this or something? Are there things of that, and was there anything specifically here that you noticed?
I don't think you can, until you get a guy in your building to really see that. I think evaluating, obviously there was a ton of evaluation from a video standpoint, continuing to follow the league, our pro personnel group. Anytime anybody comes into the league, we're watching everyone. We're gathering intel, we're looking at their situation, what their kind of growth path has been, and for us it was an opportunity to make a bet on a guy that became available. That wasn't even sure it was going to be available. It came up and it was an opportunity that we decided to grab, and then now the work begins for him, for himself, and here it's an opportunity for him to be in a new situation around a different group of guys, take what he's learned from previous stops, or stop really. Portland was like one day, and then apply it here. And so, like I said, that's a multi-month process. That's not just come in and do that. Where he is in his career, I think there's even an adjustment period if you're talking about an older player that comes in. I think there's always an adjustment period here with how we play, how connected we are, what we ask our guys to do, and that takes a little getting used to. I wouldn't say it's the only place in the NBA that we're like that. There's lots of other teams that are like that, but I think some people underestimate the adjustment period sometimes that it takes, whether you're a rookie, you're a 3-year player, you're a 10-year vet.
It seems to me like one of the swing decisions of this was whether or not you guys wanted to use a first-round pick in this deadline, and how important is that asset to you, or those assets, those future picks that you have, as far as how would you view those assets, and where I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this, but like deciding whether or not to value those future assets over kind of the current window. Sure.
I'm not really arguing with you, Andy. I think there's always a value proposition of the assets that you have. That goes for future picks. Future picks are what they could be or what they are, what they return to you, and what kind of timeline that is. Again, going back for, certainly there's this trade deadline window where we investigated every possible situation and what the value coming back, how much can it make us better? Can it definitively make us better? And that's a high bar with this group because we're really good. So every deal is sort of in a vacuum of things that come up, whether using a future asset, using a player, that there was just not anything definitive that reached a bar, whether using a future first or not. So to answer the first part of it, obviously future firsts are very valuable. So are, high-level rotation players that are playing for the Jazz that have proof of concept and we're really good. So it really depends on, the value you set forward. I don't put any higher value because of scarcity. They exist in their own value, if that makes sense. Like, if we had 10 future first-round picks, it's not like you're throwing them out like candy, and if you only have a couple, then you have to make a value proposition for those. Does that make sense?
Were you surprised that Daniel House was available for a 10-day originally, and then what did you see from him in that limited time that he got here?
Sure. It's probably haven't had enough time to reflect on just how we've all been living with COVID, in different respects for the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm sure, maybe in the off season I'll reflect a little bit more about just how crazy, for us it was January. For other teams it started in October, November, and December. But in that kind of period, with the COVID hardship rules, you really saw a large group of players get an opportunity that really in a normal NBA season, that volume of those opportunities are just not available. And we kind of looked at that with every other team that was going through it, and we hadn't gone through it. But it kind of was instructive for us that we were able to prepare, like, if this happens to us, or probably better said, when this happens to us, we'll be able to take advantage of that. So it was an opportunity for us to evaluate some of these guys, like we do all the time. But, you know, the pro personnel group was like, we had just ready lists. And usually you're looking at that, like post-trade deadline, you got a couple spots, or, you know, training camp when you want to fill out a roster. And this has happened mid-season, and I think it was over 100 spots in the NBA that were, you know, COVID hardship ones. So you get to see some of those guys play, and then you're constantly just focusing on it when you have to go sign 2 or 3 guys at one time. So with Daniel, you know, he had obviously had a 5 years, you know, I think 5 years in the league, and has been part of some really productive, you know, deep playoff run teams as a rotational player, or even starting. You know, he started in Houston at the beginning of the year, and then, you know, their situation has changed, you know, a lot in the last 18 months. COVID hits, you know, he gets his finger banged, you know, and, you know, with the Knicks is available, and we just looked at him as like, hey, this is an opportunity, because he's a guy that is still, you know, a young veteran. He's right in the middle of his career, and he stayed ready. His activity level, his ability to defend, his ability to make a shot, we wanted to give him a shot, and he is integrated seamlessly within this group in those 2, you know, really 3 10 days that we had, and got confidence of his teammates. And when he was still available after we got through the deadline, you know, it made sense. He'd done well with his opportunity, and like to see it continue. So I'm excited to add him. And I think he helps us as another option for coach. You know, a guy that is coming in and play hard, has good size at the wing, will defend, and obviously understands spacing very well from his days in Houston and our spacing here. That was probably pretty helpful for him to integrate very quickly, because he understands that at a high level. So we're excited to add him.
Do you expect Daniel and Nickeil to be available tonight? Yes, I do.
There's no trade, contractual, injury, anything that prevents any of that. So those guys are both here, and I came in here. I haven't talked to Health Performance, but I don't know of any issues of anything like that. So yeah, I would expect them. I expect them both to be in shoot around today.
Justin, I apologize. I probably should know this. I'm just confused by the rule changes on two-way.
Mm-hmm.
Does Trent Forrest have to be moved to the regular roster to be able to be playoff eligible, or is that gone this year because they changed all the two-way rules?
Well, I listened to you this morning
Okay.
on DJ and PK on my drive in, and you said I don't know like 3 different times.
Yeah.
And if you just read Sarah's article this morning, you would know.
DJ seemed to have read Sarah's article.
I think so, and Andy knows, and Tony knows, and Eric knows, and Ryan knows.
So I apologize.
That's okay. We'll take the time for you. This year, two-way player. They've changed some of the two-way rules, but as in the past, two-way players are not eligible for the playoffs.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That being said, you want to sign Trent Forrest to a deal.
So here's the second part, David. So the changes in the two-way rules right now is that instead of days, it's games, and there used to be a cap on an individual player, how many games they could play or be active for in two-way. They've altered that, so anytime it's past 50 games, the player, if he plays past 50 games, Trent's making an NBA minimum for every game that he plays going forward. So what we will do from now and so until the regular season, he's on an NBA minimum, converted or not. So what we will do is continue to take this time throughout the rest of the regular season and make sure that we are optimized for the playoffs. So that flexibility with our spots, in and out, all that stuff, we will just constantly evaluate it. And then, when the playoffs come, that's when we're going to have to make a decision.
Just since we haven't brought up Juancho Hernangomez yet, what did you see out of him to encourage you to bring him in?
Sure. So, Juancho's, I felt bad for him a little bit for, this season. I think he's been kind of moved around a lot. And I don't think that's indicative of the type of player or what kind of contribution he can make in the NBA. He's still very young. He's 26. A lot of national team experience, has been in different systems. He's a guy that will, add to our group, will add to our depth. I think the amount of international players that we have, he's got relationships already for playing with these guys or against these guys in national teams, and obviously being in our division at various points in time. So I think he'll fit in great. As far as it just adds to our depth and having another guy with 4 or 5 years of experience in the NBA and that can play if called upon, and he's proven that in the league.